Ladies and gents, good afternoon and welcome back. I know you're all going to be shocked because I haven't put any content out in absolutely ages, and then all of a sudden there's going to be loads of videos. So I am really excited to be back on today with my beautiful friend BT, who is based over in Florida. For those of you that have not met BT before, he is an incredible human. He is an incredible shaman and has so much wisdom on so many different subjects, from constitutional law all the way through to which crystals are which and how they should be set up to be able to create crystal grids and all sorts of amazing things like that. So first and foremost, BT, welcome back. It's been a while.
Yes, it has, Lucy. It's been a day or two, so to speak. I hope everybody out there is excited to be on board and listening to what we have to share and taking everything into consideration through suggestion and just see how things move forward with this.
Yeah, absolutely. So today we've decided to speak about whether humanity is being held back or not. For those of you that obviously know, BT and I have become friends quite some time ago now. We've been on a whirlwind of a journey together, and we have really beautiful conversations. And rather than us two having a catch up today on our own, we decided that we would film it so that you guys can be participants in it as well. Now, the reason I kind of made that decision was obviously BT and I have got a lot to catch up on, but as soon as we started speaking, we both realised that we haven't spoken for a while, and all of a sudden we come back together and we're on exactly the same page, and we've got this amazing inspiration that we would really like to share with you all. So how on earth did we even get to the point of, is humanity being held back? We were just like having a little discussion about what's going on over in America and what's happening here in England, and then all of a sudden we were like, right, come on, let's press the record and let's just get going on this. So BT, obviously they hear from me on Instagram very regularly. I do daily lives on there, so I kind of keep people up to speed on there a lot more than I do on YouTube these days. And I will give a little update on the UK in a moment, but let's start with you. Like, what's happening over your side of the world right now? Like, what's going on? How's this division playing out over there?
Well, I think the biggest issue right now that most of the generational people, when I say generational, the baby boomers, okay, the older people are facing is they're being pushed in one direction, and as soon as they get to that direction, they tend to split into two different directions, and they're not really being a productive movement. It's being in stagnation. There's a lot of rah and blame and very little areas of solutions. And when we look at it overall here, especially here in Naples, Florida, because I kind of look at Naples, Florida as the heartbeat of freedom here, in America, because, we've done so much here locally within our county and around the state. And so it's a difficult time for most people to move into the acceptance that there is another side. And like what we were talking about earlier, the truth movement has pretty much hit an apex. And, those of us who took the opportunity, during this downtime, so to say, and have done research, or who have been doing research for years, even prior to this, have all come to a point where we kind of look at it as, how much more can we teach? How much more are people willing to accept? Because again, we've been going at this for a couple of years here, dealing with the jab situation, so to speak. Yeah. And that's one of the things that we have to take into consideration as a personal responsibility of the individual. Am I going to follow through? Am I going to continue my education as far as researching? Where am I getting this information from? And our generation, like I said, the baby boomers are having a lot of difficulty with that. Now, as we step down into the younger generations, there seems to be even more chaos here locally. There's so much frustration and anger, and a lot of ego. There's a lot of ego coming out in these patriot movements that I see around, not just here locally, but around the United States and even overseas, within your patriot movement.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how does that compare here to where you're at there?
So from our perspective over here at the moment, particularly in England, because we've got different variants going on in Scotland and Wales and England right now. So England have actually made a decision that they are getting rid of like the mandates, whether it be this or the mask mandate. You know, we're seemingly moving forwards out of that. And what's very interesting is when you and I did that reading on the UK based on astrology all that time back, and we saw the UK coming up the rear. What's very interesting is it really does seem to have flipped reversed now, and that the UK are leading. But obviously, BT, what comes with that is people's egos start to puff up. And again, on the opposite end of that, there is the complacency. So we've got the people that are continuing to beat the drum on the old noise. Well, this hasn't happened, and we said that this was going to happen, and this was supposed to happen, and it hasn't happened, so it's still going to happen. And I really feel that there is this division of people that appreciate that we're hopping timelines right now. And, you know, things can be jumped, things can be missed, things can be moved around. And then there are the people that are almost willing it, like praying for that to happen so that they're right, if that makes sense.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. All of us have certain energies. You know, we all have that ability to create. And when we create, you know, let it be through, you know, speaking or just thought process, you know, that we hold within ourselves that we don't share with anybody. You know, we don't let, you know, the dream stealers take it, so to speak, you know, those type of things. There's a hard aspect to control your own emotional aspect as you're going through this. And our emotions are really a difficult time right now. I think, you know, everybody that I see, no matter what age group they're in, the emotional stability is where they're having the most difficulty, because again, they're unable to stay concentrated enough to actually see the truth of the truth movement, or to see their own truth within their own family dynamics of who believes things and who does the research and is, you know, education and informed by that education, instead of just, you know, taking it on a hearsay, so to speak. And there's a lot of movement within the younger generation to be in control. But the problem that we see here is they don't have the experience of that management, so to say, you know, because again, experience in management in any type of history is really important. You know, there's a lot of new people coming in here locally that are running for different positions within county government, you know, and city government, which is really nice, because again, these people are people who, you know, basically are stepping up to the plate because, you know, they believe in their heart that's what their, you know, destiny is for. And so the difference between people stepping up to the plate with good intentions versus people stepping up to the plate to create more tension instead of, you know, good intentions is really hard to discern right now here locally. Okay, like we have people that are Masons, yeah, who publicly have announced they're Masons and they're running for positions, and we have people who are publicly utilizing Christianity as their format to be elected. We have people who are utilizing their experiences, not necessarily in the aspect of knowledge, but just to get people to understand where they're uneducated in government. That's their excuse. Okay, I mean, it's one thing to come into government and go into a position, but you have to have some knowledge of government. You just can't wing it. You know, you just can't. And like over, you know, what I see, you know, on the different media platforms, you know, that I watch with dealing with the UK and, you know, all these other countries and Canada and all this aspect, you know, there's so much ego that is involved. I mean, it's like what you mentioned earlier. People are just hitting it so hard on the egotistical aspect, and even here, like locally, when I comment truth with verification, okay, because I love to have the verification. You know how I am,
Yeah.
and people have difficulty with even accepting the verification, even though they know it's true, because it goes against their personal narrative and they don't want to take the responsibility, but yet they want to be in control of the city as a mayor or the county as a commissioner or things of this nature. So it's difficult right now. Are you seeing a lot of movement in your political community within your local area? Are you seeing people moving in and out quite a bit, or are you seeing double talk?
Yeah, it's quite interesting actually, because from a level of politics, I'm not really seeing too much movement per se. But that said, there is a lot of people that have come through the truth movement that are talking about, well, I need to join this party because of X, Y, and Z, or I need to do this. But I haven't seen any like proper steps forwards into that. And I'll be honest with you, I've always had a little bit of a challenge with this, because I know this is going to take multiple years for us to break down and collapse and move forwards and restructure, as we know that needs to take place with the worldwide government. However, I can't quite resonate with stepping into what exists today. My view is, and it's very interesting, when you were talking, I kind of smiled a little bit ago, because I used to have a friend called Mickey, and I knew him like through a lot of my party years. And whenever it would get to about 2-3 o'clock in the morning and we'd be sat around chatting at the end of the night, he'd always be like, Lucy, you've got to run for parliament, like you've got to do it. And I'd be like, shut up, I know nothing about politics, like where on earth does it? But every time without fail, he'd go on this rant about how I needed to get into politics. And I used to say to him, babe, I know nothing. And every time he'd always come back with, Lucy, we need somebody normal on the inside. That's the whole point of this. And so I can see lots of people being sparked over here in the UK, even my friends in Australia and in America and all sorts of, I'm seeing people being sparked into like, we know we've got to collapse this. We know we need to do something. So maybe we need to get involved in it. However, I'm not seeing the level of dedication right at this moment, probably because it can't be done right now. Maybe, I don't know enough about it, but there is a new interest in politics, definitely here in the UK. And somebody that I'm quite close to is very, very keen to get into politics for that reason. And I truly believe he will, because he's very determined. And, his eyes have been on that for some time. So I don't question that will happen. My ego pipes up at that point, and I just say, well, if you're going to get in there, like, you've got to be breaking it from the inside out, and that's maybe where I have a little bit of a different view on politics, because I constantly look at what we're going to rather than where we've come from. I'm kind of tired of where we've come from, BT. This truth movement and stuff now, I feel is exactly what the title of this video is. I feel it's holding humanity back. I don't feel that it's helping the wheels in motion anymore. I feel as if, we do need to be looking at politics with very, very clear eyes. We do need to be looking at the health system and all of the different systems that we've got with fresh eyes right now, not with the baggage of the last 26,000 years behind us. It's almost like, now we need to draw a line in the sand and say, right, how are we stepping this forward? What are we doing to take this forward? And please don't get me wrong, ladies and gents, there's some amazing things taking place around the world. There really is. But this ego element of self right now, I believe, is where the reason it's coming up so much right now and the energy is so buoyant around it right now is because we have to surrender that as best as we possibly can to collectively move forwards.
And I think you nailed it on the head of the nail there with collectively moving forward.
Yeah.
Okay. When we look at government, and again, I'm not, hammering people because they have no knowledge of government. What I'm saying is people have to have some form of an understanding of the direction, like what you mentioned, how we're going to move forward. What areas are we going to look into? What areas are we going to dissolve? things of this nature. And I think the hardship is that I see here locally, here in Naples and in Collier County, is the people who have the ability to create a lot of change are playing both sides.
Yeah.
Okay.
Playing
And
it
that's
safe. Playing it safe.
they're playing it safe. They're riding the fence. And again, there's so much infighting. And again, maybe that's part of the plan, is to create a little chaos within, people, to see which direction they go, who they follow, what they believe, what they don't believe. Again, there's, disinformation, and then there's good information. And the people that are here locally that have the financial influence to be able to really create a lot of change, again, are participating in the same game. And when I say the same game, it's the rah, it's the bitch, it's the lack of solutions, the lack of looking at government and the reason why government has failed. Okay, these things that I see here are detrimental, not just to our local community, but it's happening across the United States. And I was just talking to some people here the other day from Wisconsin, and some other people from Georgia and other areas that are mirroring what's happening, not just here, but pretty much around the whole United States. And so when we look at the ability to create change, again, we have to be truthful. We have to have some knowledge of truth and what has taken place. I mean, if you're going to go into a government position, you should at least know that the government presently is a corporation government that you're operating. Okay. Most people that are running in the political realm right now are blind to the corporation structure of government. They can't separate what they've been taught for, decades, so to speak, versus what has happened for centuries. I mean, when I was going through, I just got this book here the other day, and it was published in the early 1800s, right when Florida became a state. Okay, so we're looking like 1838, 37, right in that time frame. And the very first constitution for the state of Florida, and let me see here. I think I got it on my phone here too. That way I could go ahead and bring that up. But the first constitution for the state of Florida specifically said that they would have district courts, regular courts, and at some time corporate courts.
Oh, wow.
Okay. 1838. I mean, think about this. And so, I showed people that, I showed attorneys that, and they're like, well, that doesn't mean anything about today. And I'm like, wait a minute. It is what is today. I mean, when Florida became a state, see, this is the thing people have not dove into, and I'm not a historian yet on Florida. I'm diving into it as much as I can, getting as much old resource books that really spoke the truth back in the day, and weeding out the stuff that was bullshit, so to speak. Okay, because there's some of it in there too. Most of it deals with American Indians, Seminoles, and all this other stuff. Okay, so I'm just saying, they weren't too kind to us, to our people, so to say, within history books. Okay, but the other aspects that they're talking about is there was a structure designed in the state of Florida to put us in the position that we are today. And even though our constitution, the state constitution of Florida, unlike other states, has been changed multiple times. Okay. Through, people, getting upset about certain things within the Constitution and all this other, stuff that actually the first Constitution had some negative connotations dealing with race. I'll just say that. Okay. And so, I'm glad that stuff got changed, but a lot of the other things that are detrimental in a negative aspect, still remain because people haven't done the research to understand what it means. See, and see, again, it's like you guys have, the Magna Carta, we have all these other aspects, dealing with common law. Government will return back to common law. The question is, will the individuals who are running for government now be in that transition? And I believe they will be. I think we'll see that transition, as all the countries of the world unify and we come back through this great reset of prosperity and change and understanding within the education system for our children to be able to get them on a right foundation. Because, we have to start with the lowest educational manner for the kids to understand that we don't want to return back to what we've had in all of our past. Yeah. And that's where infiltration is created, here in the United States, and probably the same, in the UK, I would imagine, for what you've shared on your videos. The school system here in the United States is pretty much broke. The only good schools anymore seem to be private schools. And, for the most part, private schools, yeah, they're expensive, and a lot of people don't want to go to a private school. But if you're getting a better education and you have more freedom, then it's kind of a no-brainer. But then there are private schools here as well that, are asking you to, still continue and still do that and, all this stuff. So it's a tough situation for parents. I'm glad I'm not in that position right now. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it'd be tough to be able to, make those hard calls.
I say that every day at the moment. I am so grateful that I'm not in that position, because I probably would have been locked up. Let's call it what it is, right? Because I'm a feisty woman. If somebody attacked my castle, my babies, I would be extremely feisty. And I know that this has been divinely orchestrated because of that. They need a woman like myself to be able to be the voice for the people that do have the children, that can't be feisty, because obviously I can remove the emotion from the feistiness before I communicate, which is why I know that I've been chosen particularly for the children and for the educational systems going forwards. One point I'd just like to go back to, because I've made a huge observation on common law here in the UK. There are hundreds and hundreds of people going on courses to train themselves in common law. And I think that is amazing, with your normal, average, everyday person. I can't speak on behalf of the politicians or anything like that, but I'm seeing a huge uptake in people. And I'm actually going to go on a course myself, because I would like to know how to navigate this in the manner that we're going to need to going forwards. What's the point in learning the past? Because it's going to stay there. It's the past. And it's a huge thing that's happening over here. There are some people that are, going through certain processes or whatever, but there is a huge number that are going away on like 5-day, 2-week courses to learn how to stand in their truth, to get their birth certificate in a proper format, not the format that they've currently got, which links them to the corporation, and think like there is a huge wave of that taking place over here in the UK. And I'm very proud of people for taking that step, because it's a necessity. We have to do that to be able to detach from what's going on. And I do really see, I'm sure I've shared this with you before, BT, but I kept being held here in the UK. When I was trying to get over to see you in America, I was putting up such a fight. I wanted to get on the plane, but I knew that I was being held in the UK because of this plan that needed to be put together. And, thankfully I get gifted it constantly. And we are looking at collapsing the schooling systems. We are looking at collapsing the medicals. We are looking at building these healing centres, which everybody knows is so dear to my heart. We are looking at how we collapse the current legal system and how we infiltrate that to move, and at every single area. And it is such an important piece right now. If we could get the millions of people around the world, even billions of people around the world, that are focusing on the truth movement to now look at the rebuild movement, imagine how quickly we could start to get some energy behind this and actually start to see these things taking place. And go on.
No, I think the term that you utilized there is perfect, the rebuild movement.
Yeah.
And again, the rebuilding of our country, of our communities, is what we're all going towards.
Yeah.
And I think when we look at humanity And why it's being held back, it's because people aren't looking at to rebuild. They're looking at the past and how to go ahead and continue fixing the past.
Yeah.
When we rebuild, as what I anticipate, it's going to be starting at ground zero to rebuild.
Yes.
You know, we're not going to just, you know, just have this automatic float and everything's going to be hunky dory. You know, we're going to come to a point where, okay, the court systems, and I'm just tickled pink to hear you about the common law people over there in the UK and the EU, you know, all the areas there, because again, here in the United States, we're seeing the same thing. I put on a course every Wednesday at 8:30 our time here, no 7:30 our time here, excuse me, and it deals strictly with common law. And it talks about everything from allodial titles to your birth certificates, where to get them, things of this nature. Now, I know you're over the sea and over the water, so to speak, but we're tied to each other because of the water.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's something that most people are, you know, don't look at. You know, they look at it, well, you know, yeah, it's a different country. You know, what do they have in connection with us? But because of the commercial aspect of government, the judiciary system of courtrooms, common law has been set aside because it's of land, versus what connects us through commerce is the water.
Yeah.
And over here, I mean, I've seen a lot more people, you know, asking me more questions about being a state national, and I'm going through the process. I mean, you know, kind of I wouldn't say it was a positive or a negative thing within my decision. I think it was a neutral decision that I knew at one point I would do this. I just didn't know when, because I enjoy educating people in the court systems. I don't mind going into the court. I don't mind, you know, sitting down with an attorney or a county clerk or, you know, a governor, you know, or even the president for that matter. I wouldn't mind. But over the years, I've become more understanding of what they don't know, to be able to educate them in a manner where I'm not coming across as, you know, a rude BT. Okay. All right. And so when we see it today, each of these individuals that we're teaching within our courses, and many, like you said, many people are teaching these courses all around the world, and, you know, kudos to each and every one. And each and every one of us probably have a whole different take on how we look at things, but the final goal is the same: self-responsibility, self-sovereignty within ourselves, you know, not a oxymoron like the CIA and all these other, you know, agencies call us, you know, here in the United States as sovereign citizens. Well, you can't be a sovereign, ecclesiastical, you know, God-given unalienable rights, and then be a citizen when it's defined as a corporation. Okay. You can't have two. And I think that's the hardest part in education when it comes to the political people, the police, the sheriffs, okay, your area, the constables, things of this nature. When you start talking this jargon that they've never been around, most of them, because they're, you know, locked in, so to say, then that's where our conflicts come across. But most of them don't even realize that their jurisdiction is strictly commercial. See, and common law is of land, like what you know. And so as we return back to this aspect of common law, true identity of spirit, true identity of flesh, and we walk within this planet, you know, it's going to be a
huge shift.
Yeah, it's going to be a great future.
Yeah,
it really is, because you're creating a whole dynasty, you know, over there that is knowledgeable, you know, because you've utilized your experience, which you know, that's what we all do, and bring it to a platform where people can feel connected.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then utilize your experience and your knowledge in their life so they can move forward. Exactly. You know?
Exactly. What's really interesting though, there's a couple of points that came up for me when you were speaking. So we are moving much more towards common law over here, but there's a movement of people going towards common law. I wouldn't say it's consistent across every, you know, it's probably a subset of what was the truth movement that are moving towards common law, but that makes sense, right? Because I've always seen this division of humanity and this, you know, different levels of consciousness, and it's those people that are like, no, I'm not going back to that old crap. So they're taking the steps to go forwards with that. I have seen recently, or I have been, one of my girlfriends actually shared a story with me where a lady who's been one of the teachers of common law over the last a couple of years, has actually got herself in a lot of trouble. She's actually been tried and been found guilty at the Old Bailey for a pretty serious crime. And I do believe they're using her as a scapegoat. I really do. Because she's educated so many people. So it's going to be interesting to watch how that pans out over the coming weeks. And it's almost like a threat. Without saying it's a threat, it's almost like a threat to those people. But I'm just going to encourage everybody to keep stepping forwards in their own lane. You know, if you feel that that is something that you want to do, keep stepping forwards in your own lane, because at some point there has to be the tipping point. As we know, with the truth, there was a tipping point. With consciousness, there's a tipping point, you know, and I truly believe that here in the UK, the consciousness has reached a tipping point, hence why we are where we are right now. Hence why we are starting to see that we're coming out of it. Even if it might not be forever, we're starting to see things shifting. The other thing that I wanted to touch on as well, because I think it's very, very important, even in the rebuild movement, there is a huge ego coming through.
Oh, yeah.
It's very interesting. Over here in the UK, there's a few people, and don't get me wrong, they are doing amazing work. Like, you look at it on surface level, they're doing really good stuff, like really good stuff. But then you dig a little bit deeper and you look underneath, and it's really not quite what people are saying that they're doing, you know. And because of the kind of person that I am, I have a lot of people coming to me and saying, oh, Lucy, I really want to work with you because I was starting to help this person, and then this is what happened, and then I heard this and I found out this and I've seen this, so I want to come and work with you because I feel like I can trust you. And you know, I'm not here to throw anyone under a bus. I'm not interested in that at all. I feel we all need to recognize right now and trust our intuition in the rebuild movement. Go where feels right, not what looks good, because that's old school, that's old paradigm. Step into what feels right. Does this person vibrationally align to you? Do you have the same vision as that person? Not, oh, well, they're cute, or, oh, well, you know, they speak really well. It's not anything about that. This is about creating your communities going forwards and being around the right, like-minded people for you.
Mm-hmm. No, I think if people would grasp and just hold on to what you just said, and just, like, you know, smother themselves with it, so to say.
Lather it on each day.
Yeah, just lather, wash themselves, okay, wash the crud off, put the love on, you know. But the thing over here, you know, it's like the people in the movement here, the old timers understand the consequences, because most of us who have been preaching this and teaching it and living our life according to what we, you know, what we talk, you know, instead of talking it and walking somewhere else, you know, we're actually doing what we say. And we've been in the courts, we understand what takes place. You know, you're going to have your hits and you're going to have your wins. And it's no different. The court system, I look at the court system no different than a casino. Okay. They make the rules, they own the house, and they make the determination if you won or not.
Yeah.
And just like in a casino, you could go in a casino and have a greatest hand, and they could come up and say, hey, you know, we need to talk about what just transpired here before we give you those winnings. Yeah. That's an option they do. They don't do it very often, but, you know, they have that ability to do so as security, no different than the courts. So when we look at the movement of people being educated within common law, within the court systems, within the structure of government, and understanding that every agency, every department within government is a separate corporation of government. That's how it's designed here in the United States, and they call it a quasi. And so here in the United States, your all cap name, what we refer to as the straw man, okay, is technically what they refer to here as a quasi national. In other words, you're a corporate citizen of the corporation. Okay. And so as people understand state national versus a national versus municipal, quasi, and all these different legalese, verbs, that just nouns and everything else that just, confuse us, okay, because that's what it's designed to do, because who wrote it was a lawyer, okay, and over here, I mean, the attorneys over here, I bet I've only met, probably in my whole lifetime of teaching, probably less than a dozen people that were attorneys that knew I was telling the truth, because they were old school, and they went through the transition of common law, justice of the peace, to magistrate, judge, commercial courts. They went through that time frame of the 60s. Now, when you talk to attorneys over here are so egotistical. I mean, because they got a degree, they think they wrote the book. Okay. I talk to attorneys and I'll just ask them simple things like, under common law, there's 3 jurisdictions, and in the statutory laws of the state, there's 3 jurisdictions in the statutes. Do you know what those are? And the new attorneys, they can't even grasp, and so no wonder our country's going to where it is. No wonder our future is where it is.
They've been indoctrinated though, right? Because
oh yeah,
exactly as you've just explained so beautifully, is it's been over a period of time where they've removed the knowledge and they've made it seem as if that old knowledge is absolute batshit crazy, so that they could get us to this point where we are so freaking dependent. And I think the medical industry is another fabulous industry that has done that. I don't question every doctor, every nurse, every person that goes into the medical profession is doing it because they want to help. I don't question that. What I do see, and thankfully I'm around a lot of doctors and stuff that obviously share their stuff with me, especially these days because of obviously what we're creating, it's been beaten out of them over the years. It's not about that. It's about getting people to take the medications. It's not about that. It's about, getting people in and out quickly. It's not about the care anymore. It's not about the love anymore. It's not about the reason. But because they've been so bamboozled and they've been so busy, they haven't realized that chip by chip by chip, they've given up the whole reason why they got involved in it in the first place. And I truly believe that of teachers. I believe it of, barristers and solicitors and people like that. I believe it of doctors and nurses. Like, I believe it of every single area, which is why these systems need to be collapsed.
Yeah, they do need to definitely be collapsed and rebuilt in a manner that is sufficient to last the time. And when I say sufficient, you're going to have some changes as we progress in time. So we got to be able to maneuver in accordance to what is best for the humanity, what's best for each individual, and right now I see us moving, but instead of moving forward, we're moving side to side. We're staying on the fence.
Yes.
That stagnation.
Yeah.
And yeah. And so, that's the hardship that I see right now as we move forward here locally. We're in the process of putting together a talk show set, kind of like the old Johnny Carson show. Okay. Right. And so we're going to be bringing people in. We're looking to get everything rocking and rolling. Right now, we're in the process of putting our trailer together. And so we'd be able to bring everything to not just within the truth movement, that is like moving into the rebuild movement, but to be able to separate our own personal agenda and utilize it for the humanity agenda. And I think that's the hardship, because money, time, things of this nature always comes up to the people that can really make change. Yeah. Most of the people who know how to make change don't have enough money.
Yeah,
exactly.
They just don't. And all of the good ideas are hidden in people that literally don't have a voice. They don't have, as you say, the cash. They don't have the backing. They don't have the belief from other people, because they're just a nobody. And it's, and I actually, what you've just said, BT, something's just landed in me, and I'm going to say it, even though I've not really thought it through, but I do believe that a lot of people who have made big out of the truth movement are going to end up having to face some consequences off of that. I believe.
I think you're right. when we first started teaching and stuff like that years ago, we had seminars and we had certain things that we had to pay for to, put on seminars, because again, during our early ages, we didn't have the internet, you guys, we didn't have Zoom. We didn't have, any of these type of formats where we could communicate. We were lucky to go to the library and get a book if it hadn't been checked out. All right. Because they didn't have multiple books. They just had one. Okay. And so, when we look at it now and we see the ability that we have to educate, release of our ego as we educate, give it to spirit. Okay. Anything and everything I've done, I take no credit for it. I give it all to spirit for me listening to spirit to get where I needed to go. Okay. Because again, that was spirit's plan for me, not my plan for spirit. And I think we have to take that into consideration as we move forward, re-educating, rebuilding, not, hammering the past, like you say, look at who is around us that is actually doing what they say they're doing and not just showing up to show up and take up space. I mean, there's patriot groups, and I'm going to say this, and tell me if I'm wrong, please do, okay? Many patriot groups in every city, county, and state normally have about the same amount of people in the beginning. Now, they don't seem to grow. Very few of them people bring other people in to make it grow, okay? And when the Tea Party first started here in the United States back in the early days, it grew so rapidly because people were not conditioned to feel shame or guilt for their belief. And so they shared it with their brother and their sister or their family or friend or foe, said, hey, this is where we're at. Come listen. And it grew. Over here, the majority of organizations stay within a small amount. There's no growth. And again, the reason there's no growth is because they're living in the past, not seeing the present to build the future.
Yeah, a wonder has been done on us, really. If you stop and think about it, every layer of humanity, every layer of anything that is in existence, we've got this infiltration, haven't we, of self-doubt, keeping the peace, sharing, like, I don't want to share something with you just in case you judge me about it, or if you go and tell the man down the road that she's batshit crazy because this is what she believes, or this is what she's investing her time or her money or her energy into. It's in every single layer of our DNA, every single layer of everything we do, isn't it? We've been infiltrated, we've been corrupted.
Yeah. When we look at, and I would refer to that as like a morph DNA. Okay, because again, and I'll use my family as an example because I tend to use it a lot. When the lady who raised me went into the political realm, she went in with a very good spirit. That I know. Okay, her intentions were great. Within a short time, her intentions went south and went sour, and she became a deep state politician supporting deep state agendas. Okay. It doesn't happen to everybody, but the way government was designed since 1967 is to keep everybody on the dole the government provides. Okay. And so to take responsibility as an individual, as a sovereign spiritual individual, most people have been duped to realize that's what they're here to do. That they're here designed to support John Doe, the governor, who claims one thing, but his actions do something totally different. I mean, it's just like here, Ron DeSantis. Everybody here in Florida, for the most part, if they're a true Floridian, they have high kudos for Mr. DeSantis. The question that I have is, why hasn't he done anything about the integrity of the vote here in Florida? I mean, just here locally, we lost a lot of votes through corruption within the system of servers that were utilized. Okay. And that happened around the state. But why hasn't he stepped up to the plate and done what is right.
Yeah.
It makes you question that. Okay. Who does he listen to? Is he also riding the fence through this transition? Because again, he's looking to be hopefully a president one day.
Yeah.
So he doesn't want to tip the scales that cause him not to be a president. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And when you take it from the governor's standpoint and you just move it down into the county perspective, that's how it is with each of these people. You know, they go in with a good heart, and some of them actually don't go in with a good heart. Well, you know, some of them are downright corrupt and they get in through corruption, and then they continue the corruption. And here in Naples, Naples is like one of the richest counties in the state of Florida per capita. And so we're looking at, you know, more millionaires and anything like that than anywhere else in our state. And so it's not the financial aspect that can't help us get through it. It's that these individuals don't share that financial aspect with everyone that's doing good. It's a pick and choose thing. It's a, you know, an area of, if I can control what you're going to do, then I'm going to give you money.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's not the way it's meant to be. I mean, you know, you give because you give, because the direction is what you believe is a right direction. It doesn't matter how it gets there, but as long as it's the right direction and it gets to that energy, you know, I should be able to go ahead and maneuver if I have to, because again, every organization, association, group is really, you know, doing their own thing. The other thing here that is really detrimental, and I don't know how it is over there when it comes to your voting system, okay, but over here we have, you know, we have Democrats and Republicans, okay. Here locally in our county, we have it's called the Collier County Republican Executive Committee, and they choose who gets to be in the politics. Okay, so like people will run and vote, and you know they'll get so many people in a certain area. Okay, you know, then they get to pick who's the main one, and they put their money and support behind it. Okay, I went to one of their meetings, only one. I was invited because you have to be a member, and if you're not a member, you have to have an invitation. Okay, so in my 40 plus years of going to different events, this was the biggest shit show I'd ever seen in my history. I'm serious. These people were screaming at each other. The board person was getting told how he was a rotten person by the secretary, and he didn't do what he was supposed to follow. I mean, they spent more time arguing amongst themselves than being productive.
How embarrassing.
Okay? Yeah. And then talk about this. This is even worse. They only allow one person to do a video, and they won't allow anybody else because they don't want that video to get out to the general population to show how freaking much bullshit is going on within this organization. And then when you try to get parts of the video to protect yourself, okay, because in case they come after you for saying something at the meeting, okay, they won't let you have it. And so they just tear you up even worse. Yeah. And these are the people who are in control of picking the people that we, the people, are supposed to be able to pick within ourselves.
Most people would never know about that process, would they? Most people wouldn't realize what a shit show it is. And this is why it has to be collapsed. There is no, like, anybody that is keen on running for politics, anybody that is keen in making a change, we've got to change, not just build on top of. We need to change. It's as simple as that. We cannot be just fixing the old crap, because the old crap is broken. It's fundamentally broken. And when people say, oh, I just want to get back to normal, which I still hear quite regularly, I'm like, it's never coming back. Like, it's never coming back. Thank goodness, because we can't have it coming back. It was fundamentally flawed. It was broken. We cannot have people who are basically deciding who can run for us to elect to lead our country, lead our state, lead our towns or counties or whatever forwards. We cannot have them arguing at meetings where this is supposed to be about the people.
Yeah, and again, this is not just in the county. I mean, and that was my only meeting I went to. Okay, so I asked just, you know, a common question, which I'm sure anybody would ask. Is this the way it goes every month? And the comments that I got back, the first comment, okay, that I got back was, this was gentle compared to the rest of the shit shows. I'm serious. And I mean, I say a shit show, I'm talking like energies of negativity, chaos, anger, frustration, all these things that these people are supposed to be not representing, okay? And they're sitting there saying all this stuff in front of everybody, but yet at the same time, if you go against their grain, then the board members and the cronies, okay, I don't know if you use that over there, but over here, the cronies, okay, they support, then try to get you moved out of the organization. They'll kick you out.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's,
and so like, yeah. Just because, just because you have a different thought, they'll kick you out.
And this is something that really speaks very, very loudly to me, is if you are going to be a leader of New Earth, whatever you want to call it, you've got to be open to different perspectives, because you're not always right. Like, none of us are always right. And you have much more wisdom with me than me in so many areas. And if I don't listen to you because I want to be right, that's old paradigm. You know, what I see that we need all around is amazing people that are passionate about their country, passionate about their town, passionate about their state or whatever, that really want to be the voice for that, but surround themselves with people that really get how to build the economy, how to look after, how to heal, like what's the right things that we need to be doing, rather than this shit show of, well, I'll just say yes if you pay me enough money.
Right. And there's a lot of groups here, okay, and go back to what you mentioned earlier about these people that are patriots, put it on patriot shows, okay? And I'm not, you know, all of us have to make a living. I'm just saying, always got to make a living, okay? But there comes a time where you got to set aside the dollar for progress, okay? And that's a tough thing for me to say too, okay, just so you guys know. I'm not saying that you have to set aside the whole dollar, okay, because you got to live, you know what I'm saying? But you don't have to, you know, make it to a point where, like over here, to go to like some of these patriot events, you're looking at $200, $250.
Oh, wow.
You know, and these are people who are struggling because, again, the economy and everything, you know, they might not have been working because of everything that was transpiring over the last 2 years, all this stuff. To go to another type of event, to meet somebody who's actually, you know, is world renowned, so to speak, that has lots of information to share, okay? Most of them will share that information, but they don't give a solution. Yeah. So you're paying $250, $500, $1,000, whatever the case may be, $10. Even let's go down to $10. To listen to bitching and moaning and complaining with no solution. Yeah. And if I want to listen to bitching and moaning and complain, I just turn on CNN.
Yeah, but it's the thing that I can't quite get my head around these days is it's the same thing being regurgitated and regurgitated and regurgitated. At some point, you've got to say enough is enough. We've heard that 10 times, and we actually spoke about the EBS, didn't we, before we came on? Yeah. You know, I don't know, at some point in a group that I'm in, I saw something shared about the 9th and 10th of February, the EBS, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, blah, 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 blah. And I'll be honest with you, it's such a turnoff. It is such a turnoff. Like, we've heard it how many times in the last 2 years? Let's just allow it to take place if it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, let's stop regurgitating this old stuff, because it's like we're insane. Literal insanity. We keep hanging on the same things. Why not let's take steps forwards and build solutions, as you just said, all the whilst all of that could still be happening in the background? It doesn't matter if it's still going on in the background, but do we need to be focusing on it? Do we need to be keep regurgitating it, or do we just step forwards? And that's like, I've been banging on about this since about April last year, because I'm tired of sitting in this old stuff. I'm tired of keep regurgitating, let's step forwards, let's rebuild, let's do something.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the hardest part with the rebuild is the rebuild of the individual.
Yeah.
Think of that. Okay. Okay. It's one thing to say we're going to rebuild our country, our government, our structure. How do we rebuild the individual? Okay. And the only way I can honestly say how to rebuild an individual is to put them in their paradigm where they're most comfortable. Okay. So if somebody's a mechanic and you want to talk to them about things, put them in a mechanic shop. You know what I mean? Go to them where they're comfortable, where they're used to being around. Don't put them outside of a structure when you're working with them. Look at their spiritual growth, their physical end game that they see.
Yeah.
Figure out what they're determining is their end game, and what they're determining what their spiritual end game is. And now if they don't work together, then they need to readjust and replan and rebuild their life according to what they're meant to do. Education, same way. Medical, same way. You look at the United States, 1912 is when they took homeopath medicine and made it illegal. Okay, so if you was old saying, the medicine woman of the community, or the medicine man of the community in 1912, 1913, you couldn't do it after that. Otherwise, they'd throw you in jail for not having a physician's license.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, every determination has been predetermined, whether it be for ourselves, for government, for our country. And now we're at the time to take that predetermination, switch it, just like in 2012, like the Mayans, 2012, they said there was going to be a switch in consciousness, a rebuilding of the mind. And those of us who were awake prior to, or during, or even after, are rebuilding that consciousness. Absolutely. Now we have to rebuild the consciousness to utilize the entire rebuild of our body and our structure. So as we move forward into these new technologies, we're able to receive them. Yeah. We'll be able to receive the med bed energies, be able to receive, the quantum financial system and understand it, be able to receive all these different aspects that we're going to be utilizing in our future, which is taking place in our present. Yeah, absolutely. Because it's already created. We just got to step into it.
Yeah. I think that's an absolutely beautiful place to actually stop this conversation, to be honest with you, because I do think that we're going to need to come back and revisit the technologies and revisit all of the other elements of consciousness. But I really felt today we had to bring it to people's attention how they are actually holding themselves back. How we allowed this to happen. We allowed 1912 for the people that did homeopathy to be dismantled. Like, we allowed that, and this is the bit of humanity's ascension that, I wasn't alive then, or I wasn't, and it's all this blame game. And actually, we just need to come together and say, we fucked up. We handed our power over, and now gracefully, with ease and flow, we need to be taking that back.
Yeah.
And it's so important. And like you say, it's quite interesting. As I was out running this morning, the med beds kept channeling me, and they haven't been for a long time. So the fact that you mentioned it, I was like, we're aligned as always, which is always nice to know. But I do feel that perhaps we should come back whenever you're ready, and we can do a bit about the technologies and what that looks and feels like going forwards.
Yeah, I think that'd be great, because again, there's so much information being brought out. I mean, you can go in and look at Tartarium, and look at all the, aspects of truth within building and construction around the world. And for the BS story of us landing on the moon. Okay. So, I mean, you can
know firsthand.
We understand all these different things, but at the same time, if we can just take into consideration and forgive not only ourselves, the past, so we can focus on the present, so we can move into the future without dragging all this karmic energy forward.
Yeah.
That's the purpose. So again, Lucy, I appreciate your time. We love you. Love all you out there.
It's been amazing. Ladies and gents, thank you so much. Do remember to hit the thumbs up button. Do remember to comment, and BT and I will come back to you whenever we get some time. BT, thank you as always for being an incredible participant. And ladies and gents, who thinks we need to have him back soon? Right, well, lots of love all. Have the most beautiful day. Take care. Thanks, BT.